What's going on, everybody? Welcome to season 2 of the JAK'ed Up Podcast. You know, last season was really, really great. I had a lot of fantastic guests, and this season I'm going to do my best to improve on that and bring you even more motivational and inspirational people. Now, the funny thing is we're going to start this season with someone who was on the show right towards the end of last season. But once we get into the conversation, you'll understand why. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Krista Ellow. Krista, my friend, welcome back to the show. I bet you didn't think you were going to be back this quick, did you?
No, I didn't. Stuff happened really quickly, and here we are again, getting caught up.
Indeed, caught up in it. Well, you know, if I remember correctly, towards the end of the last podcast, I was like, well, you know, it's obvious that you and I have a whole lot in common. We've got like a mindset that is running on the same track, so we could probably talk for hours and hours.
Probably. That is probably accurate. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is it kind of wound up like that. We stayed in contact after the podcast, and then I had an idea one day and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And you and I started chit chatting, and then the next thing you know, the reversal roadmap was born, huh? Yep.
It was like magic. Magic.
It was. You know, I firmly believe in everything happens for a reason. And we were supposed to do that initial podcast and meet. And, you know, these brainstorms were supposed to happen and us come together and collaborate on this. And I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to change a ton of people's lives.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually really, really excited. I'm really excited for this program. And working with someone who really understands my view on this. It's so hard. I feel like it's so hard some days explaining to people, you know, what I do. It's like, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, I help people with type 2 diabetes not have type 2 diabetes and get them off their meds.
Right. Absolutely. Well, actually, to that point, before we get too far into the weeds, for those people that may not have seen the first episode, why don't you give them a quick rundown of who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do?
Gotcha. So I am Dr. Krista Ellow. I'm super nerd. I'm a clinical pharmacist, medication expert. And I somehow in this world wandered into being a diabetes expert. And I did that, of course, by figuring out how not to do it. And so I could figure out how to do it properly so people have less diabetes and aren't burdened by the medications. You know, you got to stop doing all the wrong stuff before you can do the right stuff, right? And so I actually was a giant, super, lots of letters behind my name clinician. And then after treating lots and lots and lots of people the traditional way, the way we all know about, I realized that's not working. That's not making them better. Right. I'm fixing their numbers, right? Fixing the numbers. But their bodies, I could see their bodies weren't any healthier. And so I switched everything around, went through all the evidence, and the evidence says we're doing this wrong. So I started doing it right. The nutshell of doing it right, and Lord, people don't like hearing this, but it's kind of the opposite of what we're taught on how to manage diabetes right now.
Right.
So that's worked out for a whole bunch of people.
Well, that's good. That's good. You know, I mean, I'm like you know, like I said before, our mindset is so like runs like right on the same track. It's crazy. And, but yours came from the work that you were doing. Mine came from the work that I had to do it myself. You know, everybody pretty much knows my story by this time. And, you know, it just, when I sit back and I look at all the struggles that I went through, trying to learn how to manage my blood sugar levels and what I could eat and what I couldn't eat and these types of things, what I needed to do to lose weight, it became rather apparent to me that there has to be a better way than running around. And it was funny because you go to different doctors and different doctors would tell you different things. How does that make sense? How do, you know, it's like you have the human body. Now, granted, we're all individuals, and, you know, to that point, you kind of have to tailor things a little bit. But at the end of the day, physiology is physiology. And, you know, this affects blood sugar. This doesn't. It's not rocket science.
It's really not. it's so beautiful in simplicity. And this is what I try to tell people. It's like, we've taken a disease that is manageable. It's doable. It's reversible. We can kick this butt. Okay. And we've made it so convoluted and complex. And then people get stuck in all these rules and they're confused and everything gets worse. And it's beautiful because it's really, I'm not going to say it's easy because change is often hard, but it's simple as far as what you really need to do.
Yeah.
What you really need to do to get off the meds and actually slam down.
I know. And it's kind of nuts because, and you see it with the people that you help. I see it with the people I help. And I'm sure we're going to see it with a multitudes of people that we're going to help with the reversal roadmap. But it's when you break it down, the hardest part is right here.
It is.
Once you have the knowledge, you know that you need to get up and you need to move a little bit. You need to include some activity in your life. And once you know how to eat, when to eat, it all comes down to right here. You can have all the knowledge in the world. If you don't apply it, you might as well not have the knowledge to begin with. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that takes a little bit of help. That takes a little bit of coaching. You have to really, really believe that it's possible. And it is. Thousands of people have it's already been done. It's already been done. So let's do this. But what I find people get really caught up on is the old set of rules.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're trying to change that old set of rules, they're like, no, I can't do that because, well, I'm not quite sure, but I know I'm not supposed to do that. I know I'm not supposed to go a couple hours without eating, which makes no sense, right?
No,
because your blood sugar is already high. Why you, and a lot, and I hate to say this out loud, but I've seen it with my own eyeballs. And a lot of that mindset comes around being chastised when they go to the clinic. Well, here's the rules. You didn't follow the rules. Well, those made me heavier and sick. Well, these are still the rules. What?
Right. You trust the process. Trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process. Yeah, so that, that process will get, and it's provable. Like you follow that old process, here's how many meds you have later. And instead of saying, well, that process doesn't work, what the medical community says, and again, I was knee deep in this community, what the medical community says is, well, that's how it goes. It'll always get worse. There's nothing you can do about it. And it's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense, especially if someone comes in, they're like, oh, you have pre-diabetes. You better do something so you don't get diabetes. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you have diabetes, there's nothing you can do about it. But with pre-diabetes, I can prevent it. I'm very confused at the rules right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just making this stuff up as you go, right?
Right. And my question is, how many people get put on, because this is something that I have noticed through my own experience and people, clients that I've worked with and stuff. When someone gets diagnosed with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, one of the first things that happen is they get put on a blood pressure medicine. They get put on a statin for cholesterol without even doing blood work. It's like, okay, you're going to get these prescriptions and you're going to go home, because if you're pre-diabetic, your health habits must be so bad that your cholesterol has to be high, that your blood pressure has to be high. Krista, I am 54 years old, and never in my life, even at my heaviest of 405 pounds, never has my blood pressure been over 130 over 80. Never. Yeah. So you can't tell me that just because someone is pre-diabetic or has, type 1 or type 2 diabetes, that they automatically have high blood pressure. They automatically have high cholesterol. You can't go by that.
Well, here's the thing they're doing. And again, love to my colleagues, but come on, guys. Someone comes in, they're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And there is this panel of medications that you're supposed to be put on. I don't know if anybody realizes that, but it's like an automatic trigger. You have type 2 diabetes, boop, 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 and boop. Okay. Yep. So statin, ACE inhibitor, aspirin. They really shouldn't be doing that anymore, by the way. Right. Even in the clinical guidelines, they say not to do that, but they're still doing it.
Right.
Okay. They're still doing it. And so what happens is, now that type 2 diabetes is getting diagnosed younger and younger and younger, let's say somebody 38 comes in, they have type 2 diabetes, they get the automatic panel of meds. They're on those drugs for 40 plus years for no reason.
Yeah.
makes me crazy. My eye's going to start twitching soon. It makes me crazy. And I'm like, you put somebody on okay. And why? Why did you do that? Because the guidelines told me to.
Wow. It's nuts. Yeah, it's pretty much a lot of people I know. It's like they get diagnosed and it's like, okay, you're gonna be on some sort of statin, like you said, blood pressure medicine because it's the ACE inhibitor, aspirin to thin your blood, metformin. Sometimes depending on how bad their A1C was, they might throw them on glipizide or Januvia or something like that. But
insulin.
Yeah, but you're talking 3 medications to deal with one issue. And that's not counting all the extra stuff that you may or may not need.
Yeah, and if you go that route, it's almost guaranteed you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because metabolically, the diabetes is progressing. Metabolically, it's going forward.
Sure.
Okay. And you're not doing anything to stop it. You're just doing something to put duct tape over the numbers. Okay.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, I don't want to look at like, that's really the approach. Let's put some tape over this and not do anything about the metabolic process driving the whole disease forward. In fact, I could argue very easily that the education people get when they're first diagnosed actually pushes that disease further along because they're told to eat 2 or 3 times the amount of the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And that'll push the metabolic problem forward, which leads to more drugs. Like, it's like, you can see, it's so, when you step back and finally seen it, right? It's like, wow, that's obvious. Wow, that's obvious. Why is nobody else saying this?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't see it myself until I had been through my journey and got off the meds. You know, I was like, because when I started lifting weights, for example, and started exercising again, I was like 43, 44, something like that. And I noticed that no matter what I did with my diet before I started exercising, my blood sugars were pretty much like clockwork. I could eat as healthy as possible. I could avoid carbohydrates and all that other stuff, but my blood sugars remained the same. I started exercising. Inside of a month, I was getting where I would normally wake up and my blood sugar would be like 140, 150. My blood sugar was in the 80s every morning when I woke up, just from exercising.
Just from adding that.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And when you look at that in the broad spectrum of things, you know, I think Aubrey Marcus said it best in his book. Exercise is the most powerful medicine that there is, and it's absolutely free.
It's healing.
Yep.
It's healing.
Absolutely free.
And I mean, you have to move, you know, and I told you this before, things that don't move are usually not living.
Yep. That's it.
So don't be like something that's not living. But also, I don't know if you've noticed that in our culture a little bit, we have kind of a screwed up exercise relationship, right? We rely thoroughly, like, exercise is that thing that's gonna help us lose all the weight. Therefore, we don't have to address our diet, right?
Right.
It's going to be that massive, like, you know, this is the hammer, that's the nail, this is going to cure everything. So we don't have to address the other thing, okay?
Yeah, the other
thing
around.
that we're stuffing in, the full box of zebra cakes that we might have had over lunch. I'm just saying. Right. And so we have this relationship with exercise where it's like, it's for weight loss. Oh, I didn't lose weight, therefore it didn't benefit me. And it's like, no. Exercise is like, I don't know, 7, 8 down on the list of amazing things exercise does. Okay. Yeah. And so with that mindset, that's where people again give up a little, you know, because let's see it. I want to see it. Okay. Yeah. And so we kind of use it as a tool improperly, and we have a bad relationship with it. And that relationship needs to be healed and laid down and corrected, because, you know, even when people go through just coaching with me and they've cleaned up their diet and they've thrown out the diet soda and they've thrown out the fake stuff and they've thrown out, you know, the Haagen-Dazs at 7 p.m. every night kind of thing. They're like, okay, Dr. Ellow, what's next? Krista, what's next? And it's like, it's time to add some resistance training. It's time to move that body. because that's a level up. And if they haven't done it yet, it's time to level up.
For sure. And I want to touch on something that you just said, and then I've got another question that I want to ask you. You talked about adding resistance training. So many people, when they're thinking about, oh, I need to lose weight, they think they need to go to, certain gyms that are, to me, nothing more than glorified cardio mills. And they're the type of facility that wants to serve people free pizza on Friday and give them Tootsie Rolls every day. It's just, I mean, you talk about market security. That's market security right there. We want you to come in here and get healthy, but we're going to make sure that you don't stay healthy, because once a week we're going to give you pizza and every day we're giving you Tootsie Rolls. Come the hell on. It's crazy. But so now you being, the person that you are, and all of the education and whatnot that you have, and you were talking about the fact that exercise is, a huge component, and it is. How important in your estimation is nutrition, and how misaligned are people's thought processes when it comes to nutrition?
Is it too far to say that we're doing everything wrong?
No, that sounds about right.
Okay, cool. So there's some massive health, I can't say this, health myths. Okay. I think if I narrow down the biggest thing everybody's doing wrong, okay, we have somehow been bamboozled that we need to eat all of the time. All of the time. And if we don't eat all the time, bad things are going to happen to us.
Right.
And your body is just not that stupid. It's just not that stupid. And so we've been taught to eat when we're not hungry. And we've been taught to eat things that don't contribute to our health. We've been convinced they're healthy, right? And we have bought into this superfood thing where we eat a ton of this superfood and our health will get better.
Yeah.
And so, it matters what you eat. It matters when you eat. I guess how often is a better way of saying that. Okay.
Yeah.
And it matters that you have movement. And I feel like every time I talk to somebody, and we're talking doctors, nurses, medical directors, who will still tell me, well, Krista, they say that if I don't eat every 4 hours, my body will eat the muscle. Right.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I don't think our species would have survived. I don't think we would be here.
No, I mean, I get that, you want free flowing fatty acids because your body can break that down for energy. But guess what? It loves to break down stored carbohydrates because they are much easier to break down, utilize for energy than protein or fat.
So, right. Protein's very hard to convert. Yeah. It's a very big process to convert protein into energy.
Yep.
And so your body's not going to do that. It's very energy efficient.
Yeah.
And once you burn up that stored carb, it's going to go for the next most amazing source, and that's fat. It's not going to start eating away your quads.
Right.
Okay. No. Now there are people who probably should eat all the time. I think they're competing in fitness competitions. I think that's true.
It does boil down to your activity. Now, I can tell you that bodybuilders, performance athletes, stuff like that, they need to eat every 2.5, 3 hours, but they're training twice a day for 2.5 hours a day. And their metabolism is constantly running in overdrive. So, in those circumstances, that's what you need to do. And that's what winds up happening because you have all these people that don't, haven't invested in themselves yet to start working with a coach. So they're trying to get information anywhere they can. So they're reading fitness magazines and going online and they're reading all this bullshit. And what's going on is the people that are writing these articles are fitness models, bodybuilders, high performance athletes. Well, they all do need to eat like that. But guess what happens if you eat like that? And it's not just the fitness industry. I saw this the other day, Krista, and I was going to tell you when I was talking to you, and I didn't get a chance, but I'll tell you now because I want to share it with the audience. I read a study about carbohydrates that was done at the Harvard School of Medicine. Now, they did this study, and what they come up at the end of it, they came up with recommendations for people's carbohydrate intake. And they said get this. You are sitting down.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to compose myself.
Yes.
Compose myself. Go.
For sedentary people, for people that lead a sedentary lifestyle and are not active, they recommend 45 to 50% of your calories are carbohydrates. What in the hell? Something in the milk ain't clean.
What?
You know what I mean?
That dog don't bark. That dog don't bark.
No, that dog don't bark. That dog don't hunt. He's a fat shit that's laying over there on the porch because he can't do anything.
Okay. All right. Do you see, I hate to say this, but I almost think part of that is intentional. I'm sorry. And I know you just said Harvard, and sorry, Harvard, I think it was one of your professors who hid all of the sugar data that said sugar's toxic and got paid for doing that. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that was your establishment. So, I don't, and you know what? It's so easy to prove this. Yeah. You just take somebody and you wean off their carbs, slowly, even like category by category. Let's go with the liquids first, then let's look at flour products and look at rice. And we can do this and we can try on life, right? Yeah. Let's try on some life with less of that in it. And suddenly they're like, oh, I can think. I feel good. I'm not anxious. I'm not moody.
Absolutely.
I have energy. Exactly. And then they're like, well, I thought carbs are the thing that give you energy. I'm like, anybody here have tons of energy after a pasta dinner? Anybody?
No.
Taken? No. Nobody.
No. Ask every Italian family ever. There is no energy. That's like when you're in an Italian family, and I can speak from this because my grandmother was straight off the boat from Sicily, Italy. When you're in an Italian family, if you have a family dinner, everybody's sleeping. Everybody is sleeping after that. It's like Thanksgiving every Sunday. Seriously, it is, because you can't consume that amount of carbohydrates and not crash. It's just not going to happen. So, and the other question that I wanted to ask you was, and all you can do is speak from your own experience because you don't know what, different schools and whatnot. How much training or how much education do doctors actually get when they're in med school on nutrition? I've heard conflicting reports.
So I've heard basically none. I don't know what basically is. Maybe an hour. Maybe it was included in another module. Like, when they're learning therapeutics, food and exercise are technically therapeutic modalities, right? So even in pharmacy school, we learn about them, but we learn biochemistry. So when somebody's like, this is how this works, I'm like, man, that doesn't make any sense because I'm a biochem expert, and what you just said doesn't make sense therapeutically. That's where you should arrive logically if you're following your education.
Right.
But very little. And in fact, they just kind of have a script, right? Right. Eat your fruits and veggies, eat lots of whole grains, avoid fat. Right. And it's not a personalized approach. No. And it's an approach where if I didn't know anything about anything, I'd be like, oh, if I eat a whole bunch of whole grains and a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables, I'm going to eat fruits because you said fruits and vegetables. Therefore, I'm just going to eat fruits and avoid all fat. Then everything will be fine. And it's never fine. No. It's never fine.
No.
So they're not. And, the medical professionals who are really grounded in this problem and can kind of see the problem, they'll say, I wish I had time to educate my patient. I wish I had time. Even if that education is not quite right, they wish they had time to do it, but they don't. And they never have time to do they don't have time to look through a food log.
Well, you know what?
They don't have time to look through blood sugar log, none of that.
Here's what we need to do. All those doctors out there that say they don't have time to educate their patients when they find out that they're type 2 diabetic, I sell an ebook on Amazon for 99 friggin' cents. Go buy it. The name of it is, Have You Been Diagnosed with Type 2 Diabetes? Here's what's next. It's not rocket science. The science is there, and people have beaten this stuff, like you said before, over and over and over again, but it takes the right knowledge. It takes the right guidance. And doctors aren't giving it, period. They just aren't.
Well, here's an interesting story, because I think some doctors see that, the story that the patients are getting about nutrition isn't quite right. I had this doctor come up to me, casually when I was still in clinic and say, hey, did you see my patient so-and-so? He looks great. I'm like, yeah, what do you do? He's like, well, he got off all of his carbs. I'm like, amazing. He's like, yeah, I got to stop his metformin and everything else. I'm like, cool. He's like, yeah, we don't really need carbs. And I looked at him and I'm like,
nope.
So why do you keep sending your patient to somebody who is telling them, right? They'll send them to whoever's on staff for the dietitian or the nutritionist.
Right.
Right. I've gotten into many arguments. Shameful of me. But okay, I'm like, so you, the doctor, see that. So why aren't we changing what we do?
Right.
And it's because the guidelines still say certain things. And there's peer review and there's, are you doing the clinical it's really convoluted and messed up.
Sure.
They think they can't go outside the guidelines. And I'm like, as long as you have evidence for it, you can do it. There's lots of evidence for reducing carbohydrates, reducing refined crap, reducing all the sugars and all the stuff that we're told to eat is healthy. Reducing all that actually helps.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing way to get off meds.
Most health foods are absolutely horrible for you. Most of the stuff, if you see it in the store and they have to label it healthy, don't eat it. It's not any good for you.
People get this diagnosis and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? And then they go to a website and the website has beans as a superfood. And so they eat 3 or 4 or 5 cans of beans every day.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden their A1C is 4% over where it was. And they're like, what? I thought it was a superfood.
Yeah, not to mention their house stinks.
I'm like, no, it's a magical fruit. It's not a superfood.
Right, exactly. There's a big difference. Big difference.
And it's so crazy. And when you look at why a certain organization that will not be named labeled it as a superfood, it's ridiculous. Like, well, it has a lot of fiber. I'm like, so does lettuce. What?
Absolutely.
What are you talking about?
So does an avocado. Avocado is loaded with fiber.
Yeah, and potassium. It's amazing. Yeah. Avocados are amazing.
Yep, and one of the best healthy fats out there.
Right, but people are like, oh, it has fat in it, though. You have to watch because the fats have calories. I'm like, oh my God, are we still in that paradigm? No.
Yeah, yes, we are. Because Dr. Ansel Keys created a big bunch of crap that an entire generation and a half was taught. And we're still dealing with the after effects of that. Yeah. I mean, people, wake the hell up. 33% of your brain on average is made up of saturated fat. What the hell do you think is going to happen if you stop eating saturated fat?
It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, you're going to sit around. You're going to sit around watching TV, making Netflix rich, and drooling down your beard. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. People spend more time maintaining their phones than they do maintaining their bodies, their minds, their spirits. It's like, okay, people, and I get it. Okay. It takes a lot of work. But look around. How many drugs do we have? How many medications do we have?
Yeah.
How much diabetes do we have? More. It does not take a super genius to see that we're doing something fundamentally wrong.
It is growing.
In one generation, we're like not twice the size. Okay. We're like 4 times as big.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
You put a post on social media today about sugar, and I read through that post and it kind of lit a fire under my backside. So I sat down and I wrote a post, like a little short article about carbohydrates and obesity, and I put this thing together and I put it all over my socials, LinkedIn, everywhere. And, one of the things that I brought to light was the fact that according to the statistics, last year, in the year of COVID, 2.2 million people died worldwide. Okay.
Worldwide.
Obesity alone, causations from obesity, which means heart disease, diabetes, anything else that obesity can cause, is 2.8 million people every year and has been since 1985. And it's growing, and the obesity rates are growing exponentially. I saw a statistic today, 72% of males and 63% of females worldwide are obese, not overweight, obese. Now, you have to look at the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the retail industry that sells all these horrible foods. You have to look at them and ask them, who's profiting from this? Who is this benefiting? Yeah,
it's a triangle of profit.
Yeah, it's not benefiting anybody but the medical industry, the retail industry, the pharmaceutical industry. Period. They're the ones making money, and people are dying.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm sure you've watched the pharmaceutical commercials for literally anything.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's a program. They're giving us a program, and the program says if you eat right, if you exercise, and if you take your drugs, then you're healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not like, the message here is, why don't we do what we're supposed to do and feed our bodies for the appropriate species that we are, and we don't need any of that. Okay. But their message is, no, you need all three of those. Otherwise you're just not healthy. And also you're a bad person. And also you'll get to look like this. You notice everybody's a supermodel in there and has like a perfect life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll have a perfect life on the beach if I take this injection of God knows what. Yeah. So wonderful. Well, that never works out.
And I have spoke to that so many times, different places where I've done like nutrition seminars and things like that. And, I tell people, I don't look like your normal nutritionist, do I? I don't look like your normal coach, do I? No. And that's because I'm a real individual. Just because I'm in my 50s and I may be carrying a few extra pounds, hell, I'm in my 50s. I've earned those few extra pounds. You know what I mean? But because I, bald and bearded and tattooed and everything else, that doesn't take away anything that I know up here. That doesn't take away anything from my ability to impart wisdom on you that can help you improve the quality of your life by learning what you need to do with your nutrition and learning how to move. Plain and simple.
Plain and simple. Yeah. Yeah. And people have an image of what that kind of looks like.
Yeah.
And that's
the fitness models.
Ads, when I see ads out there, and I've ran my mouth about this before. When I see ads out there with some half naked person posing in a gym, and the caption says something like, you don't need to give up your carbs. You don't need to, right? Carbs are your friend. Or, somebody who is metabolically in the danger zone to type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, they're on their way. They don't need to see that message.
No.
All right. Because I guarantee you the person standing in that gym half naked, they didn't go high carb to get there.
No.
Okay.
No.
They didn't.
No, not well. So I'll tell you what they did, because I know how this process works. Seriously. Okay. What they do is they starve themselves up until the photo shoot. They work out, they manipulate their macros, they manipulate their water, they do all that. Okay. Then 60 minutes before the photo shoot, they eat a half a box of Pop-Tarts, they chug a half a gallon of water. And what happens is the cellular swelling comes into their muscles and they look bigger and fitter than what they are. Bodybuilders do the same thing. It's called peak week. Going up to it, they manipulate everything they eat and everything they drink, and they spend time in a sauna with 3 layers of clothes on, and they do all this stuff. You would be amazed at what these people go through to look the way they look. And if they can do that, that's fine. But don't take those pictures and those videos and make those commercials where these people are trying to sell people something that normal people can't do. They can't even look that way year round. How the hell are we supposed to expect to do it? No, they don't. They have their off season and everything else.
Yeah. Yep. And so people look at that, people who are really, let's get serious, the people who are really uncomfortable in their body. Like, it's just like, I can't get comfortable. I got all this extra weight. My body feels tired. I'm sick. I got the diabetes thing. And they're looking at this and they're thinking, I've tried to give up carbs. It's so hard. And then they see this commercial and then they see this ad. And they're like, I can have that and I can have my carbs.
Yep.
I think, like, what service are you providing to that person? Because it is going to be a struggle bus. It is going to be a struggle bus. And those people who are metabolically in that setting, they also are in the mindset of, as soon as I get my body back, then my brain will be happy. My life will be happy. And it's like, no. You got to be like, okay, and I'm going to get a little woo-woo, but can you just love yourself for a second right now? Yep. You need to love yourself a second right now. You got to do that both at the same time. There is no, I'm going to be happy when.
No.
And that's kind of what that's the mindset that people are in. And that's why my coaching programs and the reversal roadmap program. That's why it's so key to have that, to catch people doing that. Because people are like, I'm going to get through this and then I'm going to be happy. And it's like, no, you're going to start being happier week 1, day 1.
For sure. Yeah. It's all about making people realize that they can create those little wins and celebrating those little wins, because those little wins become wins, for sure. So now
people know how to celebrate them wins.
Yes, absolutely. So now let's get into the weeds a little bit about the program we put together, the Reversal Roadmap. I love the fact that you and I sat down and had a conversation, and by the time the conversation was over, boom, we had the name, we had a concept, and we hit the ground running. What are some of the key benefits from your standpoint do you think the Reversal Roadmap offers to the people that we're going to help with it?
Let's go with the big one. Less diabetes. Reversing diabetes.
Always a problem.
Actually doable. Very doable. Okay? Very doable. And what that little tiny benefit, it shouldn't even be a bullet point. It should be like a whole paragraph bullet point, because when you take yourself right now and you reverse a disease that is going to cause havoc on every system in your body for the next 40 years, what you've just done is set up yourself for 40 years of a much better life. So bullet point number 1 should be, we just transform your life right there. Mm-hmm. It's the difference between, where am I going to be unhappy on a pile of 18 meds when I'm in my 70s? What's future self going to look like? Or am I going to realize what I need to do to actually live this life without type 2 diabetes? And there's a lot of time that people spend in doctors' offices and pharmacies when they're in their golden years. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be that way. People think it's just how it is when we get old. No, I don't know who told you that. That does not need to be how life is. No. So right now, while you still got breath in your lungs, reversing a disease that touches every cell in your body, that's a perk.
Yeah, exactly. I fell in love with the concept when we came up with it. And one of the reasons that I like just the name itself, the Reversal Roadmap, I think back to my own journey when I was diagnosed in 2007. I was diagnosed the hard way. Hello, you almost died. So I was literally scared shitless for weeks after that. And, and just as well as I do that the information that I got from the doctors, they might as well have been talking to a wall, because it did me that much good. And it wasn't that I wasn't open to learning. It was just they didn't have anything good to tell me. I had one doctor be like, looked at my chart and he saw all the things I smoked and all this other stuff. And he's like, you won't live to be 50, and walked out. I say walked out, but he actually waddled out. He was about 5 foot tall and about 4 foot around. He was a heavy set, had a smoker's cough, the whole works. And he's telling me that I'm going to die by the time I'm 50. So, by the way, I'm 54 as of a couple weeks ago. Anyway. Take
that, doctor. Take it.
Yeah. So, so I go through this and it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting any help from doctors. My mother had diabetes, but she didn't take care of herself because she was old school, and doctors back then really didn't know, what to do. And so she didn't take care of herself. Right. And she suffered because of it. So I'm like, where do I go? What do I do? How do I fix this? Because there's got to be a way to fix it. So that's when I started putting my nose in a book and started reading everything I could. And the more I realized that nutrition was the biggest piece of the puzzle that so many people were missing, none of it made sense to me. But once I got that fact, that's how in a year's time I dropped almost 100 pounds. That's why, since that initial time, I've lost a total of 156 pounds and kept it off. For the most part. I've went up and down in weight a little bit, but I'm 54 years old. You've got to expect that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Yeah. But it's the knowledge that we're going to be able to give people and give it to them in a way that it's easy for them to understand. It's interactive. It's community by nature, because, we're letting 10 people into the program, and, there's going to be a private Facebook group so we can all interact with each other on a regular basis. I just feel that the whole dynamic of the program and the way we've put it together, I think it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be around for a long, long time.
I agree because I tell people a lot. I actually train you how not to need me, because I'm going to show you how this disease works.
Right.
And when you know how something works, you can fix your own mechanical issue, right? You can fix your own imbalance, just like knowing how to work on your car. You'll never get bamboozled if you know already know how it works, and you can't you can't be told.
Yep.
It's like, no, that does not need to be replaced. Who do you think I am? If you know how this disease works and what moves it forward, you got it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of pulling your life together and finding that lane to live.
Yeah.
Where you can be happy and healthy.
For sure. Okay. So now when we decided on the program and we started putting it together, we decided that it ought to be 12 weeks. I personally think that if you can do something for 3 months solid, it can become a lifestyle change. And I feel that it is so important that the things that you do to and try to improve your health, try to improve your relationship with your body and, your ability to regulate blood sugar and stuff like that. I believe that it has to become a lifestyle. It's not a quick fix, and that's what drugs do. Drugs are only going to work for so long, and the longer you take them, guess what? Oh, well, we have got to up your dosage. You need more. Oh, we need to add another one. Whereas once you have this knowledge, it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
You're going to learn everything that you need to know, and you're going to be able to sustain this for a lifetime.
Absolutely. And unlike the model where, you eat less and you move more, and then you have to eat even less and move even more, and eat even less and move even more. That's not this. No. That's not this.
Nope.
I still have people 60 pounds, 40 pounds down. They're just like, that's probably one of the easiest things I've ever done. I'm like, I know, because once you understand it, everything starts working. Your body starts doing what it's supposed to do again, instead of all these like mechanisms to keep you alive until you figure that out. That's really what your body's doing.
Right.
Okay, let's keep this person alive until they figure out how to feed me.
Exactly. But when you look at fitness overall, and this is an analogy that I like to make to people, imagine that you are an only child and you are having Thanksgiving dinner with your mother and your grandmother. Everybody else is out of town for whatever reason, and you're having Thanksgiving dinner with your mother and your grandmother. Now, your mother is a dainty lady, not very big, doesn't have a huge appetite. Grandma's packing some weight. She's a little heavy and she likes to eat. So here's what happens. Grandma cuts the piece of pumpkin pie, or cuts the pumpkin pie. She cuts it like normally people would. She gets a piece out for you. She gets a piece out for your mother, and then she takes the rest of her pie for herself. Well, grandma is sitting on the secret of this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, 80% of your struggle with your blood sugar, 80% of your struggle with weight or anything else that's health related is nutrition. It's nutrition. You are 100% going to be whatever you're putting in your body. If you're putting in whole foods, healthy foods, the right amounts, guess what? You're going to be whole and healthy. If you're eating processed garbage crap, you're going to feel like crap. Your health's going to be crap. Say it all the time. It's not rocket science. Yeah. You have to be accountable, because most people that suffer from type 2 diabetes today, it's your own fault. You have no one to blame but yourself, because I didn't put that Twinkie in your hand. I didn't put that 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola in your hand. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do those things. You did them.
Yeah.
They were choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've had people hang up on me for saying, if you just get rid of this, everything's going to be better. They've hung right up on me because we have that relationship with food. And that's another thing, of course, in this program we're going to address, is that emotional relationship we have with food. People are like, I don't have a relationship with food. I'm like, who do you go to when you're sad?
Dairy Queen.
It's the same thing. Right. It's the same thing for cigarettes. It's the same thing for booze. It's the same thing for anything else we take way too much of. When you're feeling that way, you always have a friend in your substance. And sugar, carbs, they're a substance. I don't see anybody going to broccoli and being like, broccoli, you understand me. No. They're going,
I had such a bad day.
Oh, broccoli. No, I never have that argument. But if I
No.
say, hey, let's stop the zebra cakes, then there's some anger, okay? Because there's a
absolutely.
relationship.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing is, and this is something else that people are going to learn, you know, for as much as we're going to make the program easy to understand, there's also, people are going to learn some things that they don't realize. You know, it's like one of the things that I included in that post that I was inspired by you that I posted today was talking about the MDS system in the brain, the system that releases dopamine. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to, you know, I was explaining in this article, I'm like, look, it's real simple. When you eat refined processed sugars and carbohydrates, the first thing your body does is turn on that MDS system. You get a huge hit of dopamine. Dopamine makes you feel great. It makes you feel like you're on top of the world, but it doesn't last very long.
No.
So then once it goes away, the brain, which is still craving that dopamine, sends out other neurotransmitter signals that tell the stomach to like growl and feel like it's still hungry, the tongue to salivate. All these different things happen as a reaction to dopamine. And here's the kicker. Dopamine has been related in multiple studies to not only addiction in and of itself, but also psychological disorders.
Right. Oh yeah. And if you want to break it down, if you do something that the brain loves, the brain will program you to try to do it again. Because it's like, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Yep.
Let's do that again. But the thing is, if you are mindful, let's say you have let's use something to me. What will I eat? 2 Half Moon cookies from New York. Okay. Yeah, I'm a cookie snob. All right. If you're eating those, your tongue says they're yummy and your brain says it's glorious, but your body's like, I don't feel good, man. What are you doing? It's very like despairing. And even though your body feels bad and you can actually tell that you're bloating and you're sick and it doesn't feel good, your brain still tells you to go for more.
Yeah.
Okay. That is dissonance in the body. Like things aren't balanced out. And if you're putting something in that is causing an imbalance and it's that obvious.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the answer. Start there.
Yeah. You know, and another example, which I thought was really, really funny that I heard on a podcast that Tony Robbins was on here a week or two ago. He was talking about this study they did somewhere out in California at a university. And what they did was they took this monkey and they taped down all 4 of his digits except for the one. And then they manually bent that 10,000 times over the course of 12 weeks. After the 12 weeks was over, they unwrapped the monkey's hand and the monkey stood around all day long like this. And he did. And you know, it was involuntary. It's like he was just doing it without even thinking about it. Now they took another monkey, they taped his hand down the same way, but when they went to bend his finger, they put a probe in his brain to turn on his pleasure center, that dopamine center. They took his finger and they bent it like this for 8 hours. At the end of the 8 hours, they unwrapped his hand. Guess what? The same exact result. So what does that tell you about activating that MDS, that pleasure center in the brain? What does that tell you about how fast you can get programmed to even a unhealthy behavior if you're gaining some sort of pleasure from it?
One day, 12 weeks. You said 12 weeks, right? Or something
12
like,
weeks. 12 weeks versus 12 one day.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. And I believe it. I believe it because, you know, people, and even the thought of getting rid of that sugar, getting rid of that treat, getting rid of that. This one of my favorite patients ever was like, I'm not giving up my garlic bread. I'm like, okay. The thought of that actually causes an emotional distress.
Sure.
That, you know, and, you know, that is how tied, you know, the emotions and the chemicals, they're all tied together to produce whatever gets the output of getting more dopamine. That is what your body's going to try to do.
Yep, for sure.
But you don't do that. Again, you don't do that with broccoli. Okay. Can I just point?
No. You definitely don't do that with, I don't know anybody. Well, I don't know. My wife really likes broccoli, but I don't even think she's like that with it. But yeah, I mean, it's just, once people grasp the concept of what's actually going on and how the mindset and all of that stuff are linked, then it becomes much easier for them to see their own patterns. And once somebody can recognize a pattern and interrupt that pattern, you can affect change. But until you interrupt that pattern or somebody interrupts it for you, it's not going to happen. And that's one of the other things that we're going to focus on with the reversal roadmap, because we're going to be doing group coaching calls with all the clients. We're going to be doing one-on-one coaching calls with the clients. So that way, you know, we might have a client that needs to bring up a concern that he didn't feel comfortable bringing up in the group chat, but we can still have that conversation and we can still address those issues. Because you know as well as I do that if we just tell them what to eat, how to eat, and when to eat, and we get them moving a little bit, they'll be fine as long as they're in the program. But if we don't take care of the disordered eating habits or whatever's going on in their mindset that caused them to get where they are in the first place, they'll be right back on meds with blood sugars out of control before you know it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's been proven over and over and over again. And in fact, if I went to my website right now and for free was like, here's everything you eat, here's everything you don't eat, and here's the exercises, it still wouldn't help. It still wouldn't help because you have to overcome the mindset. You have to overcome all the rules you've been told. You have to overcome that link you have to your past. People get upset. Maybe like if I said, hey, this is not going to serve you. You need to get rid of this. We'll substitute. We'll work on it. But in their head, I'm getting rid of like a cherished memory. Yeah. Well, we got to address that. Right. We got to address that, because if, you know, eating an oatmeal cream pie every afternoon is a cherished memory that you want to continue, you're not going to continue this life as long as you want. Just put it bluntly. So all the mindset and all of the pattern interruption, the notice what you're noticing. A lot of people don't notice. They have a tendency towards certain things. They're doing certain things over and over again. They need somebody to be like, hey, with love, you're doing that.
Yep. Did you realize you were doing this? You know what? I didn't. I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because you're right. That so many times, and it's not just about health and nutrition either. We are creatures that, you know, our subconscious mind will do a lot of things, but our conscious mind, for most of us, we've got one focus. We might have a couple things in our peripheral, but we're focused on one thing at a time. And the whole time our subconscious is working in the background and it's picking up on everything. So sometimes you just need to be rewired. You need to be reprogrammed. People need to be reprogrammed about fat. Fat's healthy for you. It's good for you. Eat fat, not trans fat. Don't eat trans fat. Try to stay away from vegetable oil if you can help it. But other than
call that fake fat. We call that fake fat.
Yes, fake fat for sure. But other than that, eat your healthy fats. Eat an avocado. Eat some peanut butter, as long as it's not loaded with sugar. You know, those types of things are absolutely fantastic.
Eat a piece of cheese that actually has fat in it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
People
now,
are like, you want me to eat
not the yellow gack. Yeah, don't eat the yellow gack. The stuff that, you know, you can go buy 120 slices of American processed cheese food, something or other. Don't buy that. Get yourself some hard cheeses like a hard cheddar or, you know, stuff like that. Some of the harder cheeses, they're much, much better for you.
Yeah. People are afraid of that though. Yeah, and there's programs out there today that are weight loss programs that will not be named Weight Watchers. But, where people are buying the no fat cheese. And I'm like, look at the ingredients. You don't even you're eating all of that.
Yes. Do you understand how cheese is made?
Right.
Do you understand that cheese is like predominantly fat with some protein and some cultured enzymes thrown in there for good measure?
Exactly. So if you're trying to remove fat from a food that naturally has it, the process is intense. That's what the chemicals are about. Right. So don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Not to mention the fact that here's the best thing in my view. Here's the best thing about fats. Want to know what it is? It slows down the digestion of everything else you eat. So if you do eat some carbohydrates with some healthy fats, guess what? You're okay, because that healthy fat isn't going to cause that insulin spike and that blood sugar spike. It's going to make those carbohydrates just drip into your system slower. That's why bodybuilders, if they're smart, they eat carbohydrates with healthy fats before they work out. and then they eat high glycemic carbohydrates afterwards to replenish their glycogen stores. Yeah.
Quickly.
But that way that way they get that trickle effect of the carbohydrates as they're going, and you don't get all the negative effects from the stuff.
He said bodybuilders.
Yes.
Bodybuilders.
Okay. Bodybuilders. Yes.
You can't
now,
just fly.
No, you can't just say, oh, well, Arnold did it, so I can do it too. No, you can't do that. But it's, but I mean, I say that to illustrate a point. It just, fat has been villainized for years. Carbohydrates are being villainized now. And I want to say rightfully so, but I think that it's getting skewed out of proportion a lot. Carbohydrates aren't bad. They are an excellent fuel source. Used in moderation.
Just have to know how much.
Yeah, used in moderation. Exactly. It's like, it's like you don't put Cam 2 racing fuel in a automobile or in like a drag racing car. You don't put that in there and have your jets on your carburetors throttled wide open, because here's what happens. You start the car, it blows up.
Right.
It's getting too much fuel and it can't handle the fuel, so overload of combustion. Hello. It's the same. It's the same thing with food.
Yeah. We got, I'm actually really excited. I'm really excited. Less diabetes, how to get off meds, group coaching, personal coaching, modules, worksheets. Yep. A fitness plan,
nutrition plan. Everything is tailored. There isn't a cookie cutter in my house.
No,
I don't make any nutrition plans or workout plans that are cookie cutter. Everything will be specifically designed for the individual, for sure.
Exactly. And it's 12 weeks. People are going to start seeing amazing stuff happening. The sugars are going to start going down the first week. Sure. The weight's going to start going down the second week. Like, they're going to start to see amazing things even 6 weeks in. But then it's like, all right, well, how do we keep you there? I'm going to stay with you for another 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Done. And that's why I think the 12 weeks was super important, because, like I said before, many psychologists and whatnot have said that if you can do something for 12 weeks, it's a lifestyle. It becomes a habit, and it won't be something that you are likely to break. And that's what people need. That's the only way that you're going to reverse type 2 diabetes.
That's the only way.
Yep.
And all people need to do is make the decision that they don't want this bull crap anymore.
Nope. No.
The decision's the hardest part. After that, we got you.
Because they've been indoctrinated that they need the meds in order to survive, and they don't. They don't. I haven't been on diabetic medicine since 2013, and I have gone up in weight and come back down in weight due to medical issues and activity levels. But guess what? As soon as I'm clear to go back to the gym, I'm back on my diet regimen. I'm back working out in the gym, and the weight comes off, and my blood sugars I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah. So, and that's, I think, the problem. Yeah. We spend a lot of time as humans spending a few days every couple months trying to be healthy, and then living in a lane of crap.
Right.
What we should be doing is living in a lane that sustains us, and every now and then going off and having some birthday cake.
Oh yeah, because you got to live. Right? You've got to live. I got 5 kids and 2 grandkids. I got to eat some birthday cake every now and then. It's just the nature of the beast. Yeah. Yep. For sure. Yep. All right. Well, I think we're just about done. Just so everybody knows, outside of our collaboration on this program, where can they reach you if they want to contact you and work with you directly?
Oh, I'm at drkristaellow.com. So Dr. Krista Ellow, ELLOW.com. And of course, I'm on Facebook, Krista Ellow, Diabetes Health Coaching. People reach out, send a message, get my free download. It's easy. It's easy to get a hold of me and see what is the best starting point. That's the hardest thing, right? Where do I start? Well, that's where I come in.
Exactly. Krista, my friend, thank you so much for coming back on the show. Thank you for joining forces with me to help me. I think I've said this many times on the podcast. My mission is, if I don't wipe out type 2 diabetes and obesity by the time I die, I want to take a big old fat chunk out of its ass so I know it's been a fight. And I believe that you and I joining forces and creating this program is literally going to help thousands and thousands of people, and I can't wait.
Agreed. Let's go throat punch. You gotta get his attention first. Throat punch some diabetes.
Oh, I can do that. I can throw a throat punch now. I got that in me. All right, I'm going to switch over real quick and wrap this thing up, and then I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
Guys, girls, once again, another amazing episode with my good friend, Dr. Krista Ellow. You know, I know I sound like I'm gushing, but that just goes to tell you how excited I am about this program that we've put together. I know that the content, the coaching, and all of the elements are there so that people can reverse their diagnosis of type 2 diabetes and live happier and healthier lives. And after all, isn't that what we all want to do? So anyway, podcast was great. Krista was great. Do me a favor, smash the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell, hit all the damn buttons that you know you're supposed to hit, and come back and see me again. Till I see you again, you know my motto, playtime's over. It's time to go to work.